Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time. Some say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
Yeah! I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.
All right, 10 more games. We're in the top 50 now of my favorite games of all time. So 50 more games, 50 more ties. There's not a lot more to talk about other than I have appreciated all those of you who watch it. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get started.
Number 50, Lost Valley.
Lost Valley. I'm so glad they decided to reprint this game. Pandasaurus is reprinting it right now, and it's a great one to do so. In Lost Valley, each person is a prospector looking for gold, either getting up the valley gold or going in and digging the deep, much better mining gold. So they're making actually a few adjustments and variations to the game to make it better, to be even more streamlined, and that's pretty cool because before that period, I was already a big fan of the game myself. So I'm very eager to see what the new edition will look like, but as it is, I'm really happy with this one. I think I like it because when I play the game, it's very thematic. I feel like my character is a prospector going through and getting gold, and the choices you have, while they're not huge and endless, are different, and exploration is neat. The map is made of rhombuses or diamonds, and so it builds differently than your typical square maps like Carcassonne. So all that put together in a box is just a game that I really enjoy and plan to keep my collection for a long time. This game has been on my list since the very beginning. It's dropped a little, but I still like it quite a bit. Lost Valley.
Number 49, Quarters.
I like dice, and Quest of the Gladiator is the newest expansion here, but this has everything for Quarriors inside it. I mean, look at this. When we open this up, look at all the dice that come with this. There is just so many, and all these dice here are custom. There's 2 layers in some spots, and that's Quarriors came out with its 3 expansions. Quarriors debuted on my list last year at 55, and it's actually gone up. And there are some people who said it was a flash in a pan, but I don't know what those people are talking about because everywhere I go, I see people playing it and talking about it, and they keep selling it because it's so much fun. Yeah, it's not as nuanced as Dominion and some of the other deck builders. It's certainly not as serious as all of those. I mean, if they did, they wouldn't be putting Q in front of all their words. But it's an excellent game for just sitting down and throwing dice. And what really brought it up for me was the rules in Quarmageddon, where you could buy 1 or 2 dice, and when you scored a die, you had to cull it. Those 2 rules changed the game so very much for the better, to the point where, I mean, this is rapidly becoming one of my favorite deck builders, although it's hard to say there's a deck of dice. Either way, Quarriors is a fun blast of a game that I'm glad to be playing, and I'm looking forward to playing it in the years to come.
Number 48, King of Tokyo.
This is the first year that King of Tokyo has made my list, which is odd because I know when I made my list last year I had already played King of Tokyo a few times, and but I hadn't owned the game, and once I got it, we just kept playing it and playing it. This game is a super popular game. At Dice Tower Convention this year, this was the most played game there. I always saw 1 copy of it in play somewhere, and at one point saw 4 different copies of King of Tokyo being played around the convention. And there's not a lot you can say other than the fact that it's just fun. No one's ever going to talk about it in the years to come and say King of Tokyo had fantastic, brilliant mechanics. No, King of Tokyo allows me to take a monster and to go into Tokyo, Japan, and just smash and fight other monsters back and forth. Everyone always wants to make these games about monsters, and they've tried to. There's been a Kaiju City where you walk in and there's points for blowing this up, and there was Monsters Ravage America and different ones, and this one took it down and took everything out except for monsters punching each other in the face, and found out that that was just the most fun you could possibly have. So a great game. I'm very much looking forward to the expansion that just came out. for this that allows you to customize the monsters to some degree. So I'm very excited about that. And I know most people think of Magic the Gathering when I think of Richard Garfield, but I think this might be the game that I think of when I think of him these days. Except this isn't the last game of Richard Garfield I'm talking about on this list.
Number 47, Robo Valley.
And this is the other game of Richard Garfield's. This is the third game on his list. Magic the Gathering was on my list at number 74, and now we have numbers 48 and 47. 3 games in the list. It shows what a great designer Mr. Garfield is, and what fantastic games. This was actually one of the first games he designed, Robo Rally, and it's great because it combines straight, sheer logic with total utter chaos, and robots moving around on conveyor belts, pushing other ones out of the way, knocking them around, and I like that mix. I like the idea of mixing logic and then just seeing what happens and you should be able to do what you want to do, and if you do it right. But if you make one mistake, or someone else makes one mistake, it can change things. Building a good racetrack for your robots is critical. Over the years, there's been 3 or more editions of this game that have come out, but it doesn't really matter because the game itself is that much fun and it works. I like it. A lot of fun. I'll gladly play it. It can go up to 8 people, and if you build a good racetrack, that can work. And so it's one that I will gladly promote. It's been on my list now since the very beginning. One of 2 games today. The other was Lost Valley. So I'm glad to have it. Robo Rally.
Number 46, David and Goliath.
Not all games have to be big to be great. And this one actually went up from last year, and that is David and Goliath. There's actually no cards in here. I've actually taken them out of the box and put them in a different unit that I can move around easily because I take David and Goliath to a lot of events. Reason being is it's a trick-taking game that goes up to 6 people that's easy to teach, and it's also my favorite trick-taking game, which means if you use logic that you won't see another trick-taking game on this list. I like the theme, okay, David versus Goliath. But, theme is theme in a card game. How could it be much more? But the idea here that 2 people are going to win cards, one person's going to win the best card on the table, the highest, and the other person's going to win all the rest, and that you only want 2 cards of each color. 2 simple concepts, but they work together to make one of the best trick-taking games of all time. Well, the best, I guess, in my opinion. So if you've never played this before, it might look like a kid's game, especially if you hold upside down. It might look like a kid's game, but it's a fun one. From Playroom Entertainment, they're known for their kids' games, but this is a very good version of trick-taking games. And I think I'm just repeating myself at this point. Certainly one you should try out, David and Goliath.
Number 45, Warrior Knights.
Warrior Knights. I like to call this the fantasy version of Twilight Imperium. And I wonder if it might not be on my list next year because I can't get anyone to play it against me. Because everyone who's played it says, oh, Twilight Imperium is just as much fun. Because this is a fairly lengthy game. It doesn't look it, but there's a lot inside this box. And that's why I like it. Especially with the expansion, because you're throwing technology in the mix, and there's diplomacy, and there's politics, and fighting is in the game, but it's not nearly as big of a deal as everything else. And I like that because I like games with fighting. There's lots of them out there, but I like games that have a heavy emphasis on politics and backstabbing and working together and doing different things. And this game has those. It's very entertaining, especially when played with the full complement of players. But do realize that if you do that, it's going to be fairly lengthy. I don't know if the game's even in print at this point in time. It was redone, a nicer version by Fantasy Flight Games, and they came out with an expansion for it, and it's one that I enjoy a lot, but I don't know if it's had the staying power for people to keep playing it. Regardless, if you've not played it, you should try it at least once to see if you like it. This is the game that destroys older games like Britannia or War of the Roses, games that were Kingmaker, the absolute destruction of Kingmaker here, because it streamlined everything. Still a heavy, big, grandiose game, but everything was streamlined in a much nicer way. Warrior Knights.
Number 44, Ink and Gold.
Oh, Ink and Gold. Ink and Gold. The game, another one of those games I like to carry with me whenever I go to any kind of event, because this plays up to 8 people very well. It's a straight push your luck game. I don't know why anyone would play Can't Stop when this one's around, because all it is each turn of the game, you're going farther into a cave. You turn over cards, see how much treasure you got. Then you have to decide if you're going to run and take any treasure you found so far, or stay in with everybody else and, take what you can. But if other people run, then you split the treasure. And there's, you're constantly splitting treasure. But if everyone else has run and you go in farther, you can get a lot of treasure, but you can also die and get nothing. That's a great concept for a game. Very simple, very easy. This game has been reprinted a couple times because it's that entertaining. And every time I go to conventions, if I still see this being sold because it's that popular. If you have a bunch of people who've never played a game before, this is certainly one you can bring out. You can teach it to them in about 30 seconds, and people will have fun with it for a long time after that. Ink and Gold.
Number 43, Say Anything.
Say Anything is one of the 2 most popular games to come from North Star Games. We'll talk about the other popular one at another point. But Say Anything is a game that, for me, just kind of took the place of Apples to Apples. Because in Say Anything, you can write down anything. You can say, what's the worst breakfast cereal? And everybody writes down an answer and throws in the middle, and then the judge is going to pick one. But before he does, everyone tries to guess which one he's going to pick. And so that's entertaining on a number of levels because you're playing to the judge, but it also allows for meta jokes because you will write things about answers that other people have said earlier, or sometimes you can write something that will just make people laugh. And even if you have a hard time being creative, you can just write something down and it might work. It might be the one. So it's a kind of an icebreaker mixed with a really silly laugh out loud humor game. Just works really well in groups. It says it goes up to 8 players here. Yeah, it does go up to 8 players. And that's great because party games are good when they can fit more people in. And you would be surprised at the laughs and the loudness that this game elicits. Say Anything.
Number 42, Dixit.
Dixit, another great party game. I put a lot of party games in my list, haven't I? But Dixit is just a really good one. This is Dixit, Dixit 2, Dixit 3, Dixit Odyssey, all of them mixed together. But man, Dixit would make some nice ties, I think. But Dixit just has some really strange, weird artwork. You put a card down, you say something about that card without anyone else seeing it. Everyone else puts a card in. You flip them over and everyone has to try to guess which of the cards put down is yours. But you get points if someone picks yours instead of the one I just said. Very simple concept, but because the cards are so strange and so evocative, this is the only game I know of where the artwork is more important than the game itself. And it's done so very well. You'll think about some of these pictures for a while. I would go to an art gallery if these kind of artwork was on display. I would go see it. That's how much I enjoy them. But then again, I'm very weird and strange. But weird and strange is one thing. This game is also one of the most popular ones I've ever brought out. In fact, I've hid it from some groups because they just wanted to play it again and again and again and again and again. But hey, why not? It's a great game.
Number 41, Wits and Wagers.
And the last game for today is Wits and Wagers. And you say, another party game. Well, yeah, when I make these lists, it's invariable that party games or the same games that are very similar will end up close to each other, because as I'm comparing to different games, and when I get to games like Say Anything and Wits and Wagers and Dixit, I'm like, oh, all right, this one's a little bit better. But I like all 3 of them kind of in the same area. The reason Wits and Wagers comes out before the Dixit and Say Anything is because I actually prefer Say Anything and Dixit in a group of players. But as a game show, and I've run the Wits and Wagers game show like 10 times now, there is nothing better. It is so much fun for me to run it, and hopefully for people. I've been in game shows that other people have run, and I have a ton of fun with those also. Wits and Wagers, there's just so much going on in the game, but when you get together in that group dynamic and you're saying, I don't know the answer to this, but do you? And people go back and forth and discuss and give their answers, and then you don't have to know the right answer, you just have to know the person who does. So it's a fun game. I'd really like to see this as a hosted game show, you know, on a national network because it's that entertaining. But as it is, it's an easy one to fit on my list. So number 41 is Wits and Wagers. You know, man, I'm looking at this list and I'm starting to, man, I really like these games because we're getting to my top 40 now. So starting on Friday, come back and I'll list 40 to 31. And then next week, 20s. And then the week after that, the top 10. So exciting. So I appreciate everybody who's watching these. If you like them, let us know in the comments. Go check out our website, Dice Tower, which has a listing of all the games and pictures of them and links to the reviews. And also my daughter, Melody, her top 100 games. You know, you might think, oh, it's a kid, I don't care. But really check them out because she will have picks that I don't have. And she has done a great job on that. And then, of course, there's the People's Choice Top 100. What's going to be on that one? Check back and Z and I will give you the answers there. Well, that's it for this time. I hope you guys have liked this. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Some say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.